This is NC Spin, an unrehearsed discussion on issues of interest to North Carolinians. Now, here is your moderator, Tom Campbell.
Welcome. You've heard and read the spin the media and the politicians have put on the issues of the day. To get the correct spin on what's going on in North Carolina, let's introduce you to our panel of experts. They include our favorite News and Observer columnist Ruth Sheehan, Chris Fitzsimon from NC Policy Watch, John Hood from the John Locke Foundation, and former Lieutenant Governor Dennis Wicker. Well, this week we're going to ask our panel to talk about the state of ethics in our state, a possible gusher of water wars, reforming our tax code, and bonded term limits. Let's get started. Several recent stories over the past few weeks have called into question the state of ethics in our state. Obviously, the most important one, the one that's taken center stage throughout the course of the week, are the Easley hearings. I want to go around the horn, and I just want to ask everybody, how would you describe the state of ethics in our state, John?
I would say rudimentary. If ethics was an education system, I don't think North Carolina would be out of preschool.
Okay, Ruth?
I'd say also abysmal at the moment. I do think it's an opportunity for some real reform.
Chris?
I would say not very good. I think the only good news is that it looks like we're doing a better job at catching people who are doing what they're not supposed to be doing.
All right. Throughout the course of this week, John, excuse me, Dennis, I'm sorry.
I've just chopped liver over here, Tom.
My sincere apologies.
My comment would be I think the swine flu would probably poll higher than ethics right now. I do think Ruth is right. I think it's an opportunity for us to do some reform.
Glass half full.
Half full.
All right. Now, John, the Easley hearings took center stage throughout most of the week, although I'm informed that people tuning in to watch it streaming were actually fewer than had been anticipated. What did we get out of what we saw today? A lot of this weekend, a lot of conflicting opinions, but what do you take away from all of this?
I took away from it that Mike Easley's in big trouble. I mean, I'm not sure what other people were watching, if they were watching the hearings closely. I'm not surprised that many people didn't watch it gavel to gavel because there's a lot of ums and ers and, periods of no talking and lots of drudgery that get to the good parts. So people were watching the news later, reading about it in the newspaper. They were following this story pretty closely. And I think if they did, they saw a number of pieces of the puzzle put together before Mike Easley was brought on Wednesday, and then they saw Mike Easley perform, in a sort of Mike Easley way, at least for a while, but not really answer questions very effectively.
No question he was at his charming best when he was on the stand. After all, he did do this for a living for a large number of years. But Chris, was there a smoking gun somewhere in there?
Well, I don't think, unless you were watching it very closely, there was an aha moment, I don't think, where there was a gasp in the audience. And I was actually there for the Easley testimony. There were a lot of things Easley said that the documents didn't support, or they supported another version. This all really comes down to who do you believe, McQueen Campbell, and there is some documentation behind what he said, or Mike Easley. They're two very different versions of events. There's a lot of other issues, but I think fundamentally that's what this case comes down to, is one person's word against another one and trying to figure out why somebody would lie.
Dennis, you've run a statewide campaign. In fact, your name was brought up several times during the course of this campaign. So far as the allegations of corruptions in raising money and diverting money over to the Democratic Party and slush funds and so forth like that, comment on that.
Well, you do run a coordinated campaign. I mean, when you're in an election.
I'm not talking about the coordinated campaign. Over and above the regular contribution limits, when somebody's maxed out.
Right.
All right, giving money to the party itself. Does it get directed to candidates?
Well, I mean, I've never been in the inner workings of the party, Tom, but I think that obviously when you get people to give money to the party who have maxed out, that it gets directed to candidates. That's what it's all about, is to try to help the candidates, your party nominees. But, I would like to think that people who have been running the party, and in particular this time, did the right thing and didn't try to direct it and cause it to be a conspiracy that would cause it to be illegal, but rather that they ran it as a coordinated campaign, as I started out to describe.
But it sounded, there's a little bit of winking going on there, though.
A lot of winking. You've been more than casually associated with political campaigns throughout your life.
Right. I mean, this is something that happens in other states. It happens at the national level. And I think this really is the key opportunity. I think this is a moment that we can take a circumstance with Governor Easley and turn it into a moment where we look at how those big checks get written to the party and how they get dispensed, and put some restrictions on it.
And what's fascinating about this case are some of the exhibits that were offered, and whether Easley knew about this or not, whether, I'm not going to say anybody's guilty of anything, but there's a memo written by Easley's campaign manager that explains why they should do it, how they should do it, how they can use money for the campaign by giving it to the party, how they can use nonprofit groups to benefit the campaign, which is also against the law. This is literally a sort of a how to get around the law. And one of the things that ought to come out of this, among many, is stop allowing political parties to give a bunch of money to anybody. Let them take the donations.
This just is, I mean, there's more than just empirical evidence that, for instance, the Senate Democratic campaign, the House Democratic campaign is giving large sums of money. And the Republicans. And they get funneled to the candidates that need the help the most from these campaigns. Is that not correct?
Well, there are systematic issues that could be explored at some point, but I actually think we should resist the temptation to immediately say, all right, enough of Easley, let's talk about reforming the system. This is not about reforming the system. It's not. It's about one guy surrounded by a bunch of other guys and gals who took the rules as were currently presented and evaded them, apparently, and designed all these elaborate conspiracies to get around them. Now, you could say, well, let's tighten the rules. A new crop of people will come in unless they are terrified of being investigated and exposed, and so they will find other ways to get around it. If you want to write a big check to help one party or the other, one candidate or the other get elected, there is no practical way to stop that in America.
Well, why do you send it to the governor's campaign first to get it directed to the party?
Well, that's a good question, and they're claiming that that's a route that they get the donor's permission. And this is an area where I don't think there's a smoking gun evidence that Governor Easley was intimately involved in this strategy. His campaign was writing a memo about it. We don't know if he saw the memo, what the deal is. It's a little odd that the candidate wouldn't be reviewing the fundraising plan. But we've said on this show many times, one of the big criticisms of Easley is that he's not involved in day-to-day details.
Yeah.
Well, look, let me be real clear though with the panel and everyone. I've been in these campaigns. I've run statewide 5 times. I will tell you, as a candidate, you really don't know what's going on in the campaign. You're out there campaigning. You're out there cutting ads. You're out there raising money. You're out there meeting people. You're talking to civic clubs. What's going on in Raleigh in these campaigns?
So tell me you screwed up and asked for forgiveness and apology.
Exactly. If you messed up in the campaign, you be accountable for it and you move on.
Exactly. But that hasn't happened.
Well, I don't know that.
All right, we're going to talk about this in much greater detail next week, so stay with us. If you missed the broadcast of our show, it's easy to catch the latest edition. Just visit our website, ncspin.com, and click on the webcast button on the left to view the entire show. You can also see recent archived editions of NC Spin or hear the radio version by visiting the website and clicking on the NC Spin radio button. Keep up to date on the latest debate on ncspin.com.
NC Spin will return after these messages.
Listen to what Farm Bureau members are saying.
Farm Bureau is huge. Farm Bureau is very influential in the decision-making process. And being a part of Farm Bureau lets you be a part of that decision-making process.
For over 70 years, Farm Bureau has been the voice for North Carolina farmers in our nation's capital. Farm Bureau and agriculture, we keep North Carolina growing.